We've talked tech. Now we have a big standing set. Let's talk tools. Let's make awesome. Hey everybody, thanks for joining us. We now have this awesome standing set, so I can put some of, not all of them, some of the tools out in front of me, and these are mainly just for FDM 3D printing. If you're here about resin, that video is coming soon. When we have it, hopefully we'll remember to card to it so that you guys can go take a look. But make sure you get subscribed because that video is going to be fun too. We're going to actually show how all that technology is used. I have way too many tools for FDM, so I couldn't have an FDM printer on the table. But as we do more Maker Series videos, you're going to see a lot of these tools being used. Some more often than others. Let's dive into it. We've got a whole slew of tools sitting in front of me, and of course, the gorgeous top down for you guys, so you guys can take a look at what I'm talking about as well. Everything ranging from hot glue guns, wire strippers, crimpers, spare build plates, and even things that are off camera. And this barely scratches the surface because realistically, I might catch some hate for this. You can never have too many tools. You can never have too many tools. And don't forget, the biggest tool in the room, right here. Because you are delicate, most of the stuff here is not. So always remember to take proper safety precautions. If you are using something sharp, wear a cutting glove. Don't stab your hand. I have a few scars that can prove that. Anyways, lots of tools here. Let's just dive right into it. And we'll start with a seldom used tool, but a very important one nonetheless. A hot glue gun, and specifically a dual temperature hot glue gun. Now, they're all over Amazon. We'll have links to all of these tools as well as multiple options for some in the description down below. So if you are missing some tools and you're like, I want that, go ahead down there and take a look. Dual temperature is great because your hot glue itself can be high temp or low temp depending on your particular application. You don't have to spend a ton of money. I've got a really expensive hot glue gun. This is not it. I actually prefer this over my really expensive one because the really expensive one has a piece of rubber that goes around the tip here to insulate it. And over the years, that rubber has disintegrated. It doesn't actually have great thermal conductivity anymore and takes forever to heat up. I think really the two most heavily used tools, it's gotta be the scrapers and the side cutters. Now, these are your standard paint scrapers. These ones are not sharpened. You can buy them sharpened or you can sharpen them yourself. Me, I prefer to sharpen them myself. I bought this brand new kit so you guys could see what they look like. I just take them over to the angle grinder and just throw a nice clean edge on them, but they're relatively thin. You may not need it, but it can be helpful. Do note, if you drop these, make sure you check the edges. Because if your edge bends down, when you're working on your build plate here, like that, you're gonna scratch it. Actually, this one's not very flat. Put some scratches in the build plate. Good thing it's a cheap one. But you can get these in all various shapes and sizes, just like humans. And of course, they come in a wide variety of handle choices. I like the ones with a little bit of overmolding rubber on them, but you know, to each their own. I'm used to these because these are normally what come with the cheaper 3D printers. They come with this exact handle style and they've been ground down. So I just kind of copied that throughout the years. I have some that have wooden handles that are very old, and because of that, we don't use them for this purpose. Another great tool to have, needle nose pliers, okay? These ones are the ones that come with the Prusa printers. As you can see, these are well used. A little bit rusty. Make sure you oil them often, okay? For the love of God, do not use WD-40 for lubricant. Use sewing machine oil. Sewing machine oil is dirt cheap. I think this whole bottle, 4 ounces, was like 10 bucks. And honestly, I've had this bottle for like 7 or 8 years now. This is the Albachem Zoom Spout Lily White Lubricant Stainless. Great for keeping your bearings smooth on your 3D printers. The next big tool are side cutters, and side cutters are awesome. I actually mentioned them a little bit earlier, then skipped right over them. They come in a few varieties. You've got the blue ones that a lot of you that own resin printers know exactly what I'm talking about with these. They are hit or miss. Sometimes the jaw alignment is terrible, and sometimes it's actually pretty darn good. But honestly, I'm not a huge fan of these because it's a luck of the draw and you're spending like a $200 printer or more to get these. Heikos. These are older. You can actually see some rust on these. These ones are brand new. I took them out of the package today. I bought another pack because I only know where like 2 of these are. And realistically, I need a whole lot more. Funny enough about these Heiko cutters, they're always cheaper, at least from what we've seen, to buy them in the 5-pack than it is to buy them in the single pack. To give you an idea, a single one was $8.75 when I bought them, and the 5-pack was $25. Now, I don't need 5, but I promise I will lose them. They will end up sprouting legs and walking away, and I'll end up leaving them somewhere where I totally forget. So having multiples is awesome. These are great for removing bits of support material, clipping wires, whatever you really need. These ones are great, and especially from the brand Heiko, Hako, these are awesome, awesome cutters. I can say it about a lot of the tools on this table, but realistically, other than me, the most used tool on this table got to be the hex keys. And no, not these inch ones. These, no, we get these out of here because metric is better. If you disagree, fight me in the comments. 3D printers all use metric hex keys, and these are literally the Amazon Basic series, okay? They're something like less than 15 bucks. And seriously, if you're buying a set of hex keys, get the ball end hex keys. Spend the extra money, okay? You can get a set of dirt cheap, non-ball end hex keys for a lot less, like sub $10. Spend the money, get the nice ball end ones. They are so much easier to use, and they give you a little bit of wiggle room where the standard hex keys don't. This is now my second set, and the only reason I had to buy a second set is because, like everybody, you end up losing your hex keys. So I've got, I can see my inch set, it's a little bit out of reach. My metric set is inside, and I know that I am missing some out of the metric set. Now I'm sure they're all around the printers, didn't feel like going around and trying to find them, so just simply grabbed another set, because honestly, you can never have too many hex keys, and if they're all the same style, like the same brand, that's awesome. Moving on from the hex keys, we've got some of the basics that I sometimes hope you never have to need, which are wire strippers, shrink tubing, and more crimping tools. If you have a cheap 3D printer that has maybe not the greatest wiring, sometimes this happens, okay? And we talked about cheap 3D printers. We'll card to the video somewhere. You might want to look at redoing some of that wiring. Things like these connections here, these solderless connections, are pretty terrible for 3D printing, especially when you're looking at your hot end, your heat bed, any high heat application where you're pumping a lot of amps through that cable. Those are really bad. And you might want to look at redoing some of that wiring. So a nice set of wire strippers that easily auto size to, as long as the wire fits in there, whatever size wire that you have, makes life a whole lot easier. And of course, heat shrink comes in all shapes and sizes, literally from the little teeny tiny, look at how cute it is, to the big chungus. Of course, I have some massive heat shrink. This is not all that big. This is the smallest heat shrink that I have, though. It is always good to get these little kits. They don't cost a lot of money. You can get them on like AliExpress for real cheap, but you gotta wait a ton of time. Of course, we'll have links to Amazon in the description down below. And yes, those are affiliate links, so we do make a small portion of money when you buy through those. So if you want to support us, and you can't yet because we're still finishing Patreon, you can do it down in those links. And we get a little kickback from it. Helps our channel grow. And then that way we can have better cameras. If you haven't noticed, we got well, it's actually not a new camera. It's an old camera that I've had. I've had a few of these. They're DJI Osmo Pockets. This one I use for the B-roll that we're doing. And we're filming off the main one there. Although the top-down camera is one of the older cameras, but it does a great job as a top-down camera. We're trying to get a new main shooter, so if you don't mind supporting us, that'd be awesome. I appreciate it. These are great though, and they're great to have around the house. You'll never know when you need to do a quick little wiring job. Maybe I've had this happen. Your dog chews through your power cable, and you don't have a new power cable. You can solder it back together. Just know what you're doing, please. If you don't, just go get a new power cable. Or maybe you ran over an extension cord with your lawnmower. Because that never happens. No one would ever do that. No one would ever run over extension cords or cut them with electric power tools. That's never happened to any of us, right? Right? I have to mention this. This is a TS100 soldering iron and has to be one of my favorite new tools that I've gotten in quite some time. These things heat up incredibly fast. They can run on anything between 12 and 24 volts. So you can power them from a cigarette lighter on your car. You can power them from a lithium ion battery. So you can use these things portable. I have a power supply for it. It's a 24 volt, 72 watt. This thing can heat up to 65 watts. I don't know why they call them TS100s. If they can only heat up to 65 watts, but you know, I'm not here to judge. These things are awesome. They heat up crazy fast. The tips are totally replaceable, and they have a cute little OLED screen. And because they're fully open source, you can actually hack them and change out the firmware. This is an older model. The new ones come with a USB Type-C, whereas the older ones use a micro USB. Honestly, it's up to you. They both work great. Although the nice thing about the USB-C ones, they can use power delivery, which is really cool. And normally, if I was holding this and it was on, I'd be in a fair bit of pain right now. Do not grab the soldering iron from the wrong friggin' end. Young Grant can attest to that hurts a lot. You really only ever do it once. Yeah. But these are great. There are also some great soldering stations out there that also have the SMD rework station, which is basically just a hot air gun. I'll link to a couple of those down in the description. Mine didn't fit on the table, so it's not here. It is actually over in our electronics set, which you guys have yet to see, but I'm hoping to do some cool content on that coming at you very soon. So again, please get subscribed and leave a like while you're down there because it helps our channel grow. And speaking helping our channel grow, I guess I should mention our sponsor, 3D Musketeers. That's right. You've seen it the whole darn time. Maybe you didn't notice it. 3D Musketeers, we help you get your ideas out of your head and into your hands with full art-to-part product development and rapid prototyping using awesome technology like 3D printing. We're gonna cover a lot of those machines here on this channel, and these are some of my personal tools. And there's a lot more that aren't on this table. Yeah. Soldering irons. I love this. This thing is great. Really awesome in a pinch, like if you need to do wiring on a car. Awesome to have because you can just power it from the cigarette lighter. You can literally directly connect it to your battery on your car. Crazy versatile, these little TS100s. They also come in the TS80 variant, which is a little bit slower to heat up. Pick your poison. They're a little bit cheaper, of course. We have Boden tube. This is just PTFE tubing. You buy this by bulk, generally speaking. I think we bought 35 feet about 6 years ago, and I still have quite a bit of it left. It is very cheap, and if you have a Boden 3D printer, or specifically a printer that does not have an all-metal hot end, if you want to learn about hot ends, we did a video about it. We'll card to it for you. But this stuff is awesome to keep around, because it's what most Boden 3D printers use. They'll use this, or they'll use the nicer, higher tolerance Capricorn tubing. When I bought this, Capricorn wasn't big, and they didn't. I've had this stuff for a long time, but it's great to have spares because you never know when you'll need it. Even Prusa Mark III's, which of course we covered in our cheap 3D printer video, use some PTFE inside of the hot end. Now, it does not go into the heat block, so it is still an all metal hot end. It just assists in getting the filament where it needs to go, But the Prusa Mini uses this, Ender 3s use it, CR10s use it. And hey, by the way, we're gonna have unboxings of those printers coming very soon. Actually gonna be filming them either today or tomorrow, which for you doesn't mean anything. So it'll be coming soon. A Boden tube is great to have, but to cut Boden tube, you need to have a hobby knife or razor blades. Don't stab yourself with the hobby knives, okay? If you are under the age of 18, get adult help with these things because you will easily cut very deep into your delicate little phalanges. And you all have seen Amber before. Under no circumstances do I recommend ever meeting Amber professionally. She is an ICU nurse. Don't go meet Amber professionally. But these things are great to have. You don't need to get the X-Acto brand, although we do find their blades are a little bit harder steel. They're not as ductile, so they tend to last a bit longer. With that being said, though, I've gotten packs of these. I think these are the number 11 blades. I think it was 100 pack for something like 10 bucks. Like, realistically, it's not that big of a deal, and these blades are made in America, which is great. We have no less than half a dozen of the handles and no less than 500 blades in multiple packs all around the workshop because these are great to have, and they're great for just cutting things, right? Razor knives, hobby knives, snap knives, all different kinds of knives are great to have, but please make sure you keep them out of the reach of young children, especially these paint scrapers as well. Oh, so much blood. Just don't do it. Please, please, please don't do it. Be safe about these things. To talk about safety, I would be remiss if we didn't get into fire. These little micro butane torches are awesome. They're dirt cheap and they are beautiful for doing things like cleaning up stringing on your 3D print, cleaning up Boden tubing after you've cut it, and doing heat shrink, or even some of these fancy solder seal connectors, which we will get to in just a bit, so stay tuned. They're great, but they produce a crazy hot flame, something like 2,500 degrees Celsius. You can melt metal with these. They're so powerful. They're refillable. You can get butane at basically any local hardware store, at least here in the United States. Overseas, your mileage may vary, but they are beautiful to have. They're also great in the kitchen, you know, for doing any fancy kitchen stuff you might want to do with it. Of course, be careful with your torches because you don't want to get them too close to your alcohol because that's how you get a house fire. Just be safe about this. These are great though. Highly recommended them. Of course, links in the description. If you have a 3D printer and you don't have a silicone sock for it, you might want to look at getting them. But on some of these somewhat unique hot ends, you may not be able to find them. And that's where this red RTV high temp silicone comes in. Now, this is a brand new tube. I always like to keep a brand new tube around because ultimately you end up with a bunch of open tubes, and this one where the cap broke is completely dead solid and no longer good anymore. So that one, we can just get rid of it. But these tubes like this, as long as you keep them sealed, the silicone is great. It works well. Now, RTV, you'll see it on here and you'll see it on this tube. It stands for room temperature vulcanizing, and that means it gets hard and solidifies in just room temperature. Now, understand, this stuff stinks. It has a lot of acetic acid in it, which is the same chemical that makes vinegar very stinky. So do this in a well-ventilated area so that you don't hurt your delicate nose. Trust me, it's a lot worse than you may think. And it makes your whole house smell. I'm not allowed to use silicone indoors anymore. For printers that have unique hot ends, like your Lulzbot Taz 6s that came stock with the hexagon hot end, where silicone socks are not available, you can actually go looking on a myriad of websites such as prusaprinters.org or Thingiverse and find 3D models to print your own molds. And a lot of them are made by our very own Alan of Pyreball PCBs. We've actually interviewed him quite a few times on the podcast. We'll card to an episode so you guys can go take a listen. But his whole thing is, why buy the silicone socks when you can 3D print the molds and cast them yourselves? But do not make the mistake that I made the one time where I forgot. Use a mold release, oddly enough, basically any fluid works as a decent mold release. Windex works as a great mold release. And it is awesome because you can make your own silicone socks, whether you want to be able to control certain thicknesses or you need to hit certain thinness to fit on your machine, or if they just don't freaking exist, you can do it at home. And they only take a couple of hours to dry, which is awesome. Other benefit being that blob of dooms don't generally happen with silicone socks because the sock protects the hot end. It's cheap insurance, seriously. If you've had a blob of doom and you don't have a sock on your printer, you all are playing with fire as far as I'm concerned. And we just talked about that earlier. The next best thing that we've got to hot glue is zip ties. With enough of these two things, a little WD-40 and some baling wire, I can basically make anything that you could ever want. Zip ties are great. These are short. They come in all various different lengths. These are actually from Monoprice. Highly recommend it because it's cheap, but we will have some linked in the description down below as well. I'd like to get them in a myriad of colors because then you can color code things for easy recognition. Sometimes I will literally just put a zip tie on a wire so I can then trace and put one at the other end. It makes wiring so much easier when you can figure it out with color coding. And of course, these are cheap. But be warned, some of the really cheap ones do not stand up well to UV exposure. I believe the YouTube channel Project Farm did a video where he tested zip ties. If he did, go check that out. I highly recommend it. If he didn't, I'm gonna bet he's gonna do one pretty soon. I actually really enjoy that channel. A lot of these tools come from recommendations from that channel, so go take a look. Crimpers. Let's talk about crimpers. There are a few different styles of crimpers here. We've got the crimpers made for butt connectors, okay? These are great, they're ratcheting, okay? The ones on your strippers, you see the color coding is the same. So you have your red, blue, and your yellow, your red, blue, and your yellow. Which one do you think is going to do a better job? This one? Or this one? I will tell you from experience, it's this one. These ratcheting crimpers are awesome. They don't cost a ton, and if you're going to be using butt splices or bullet connectors or other styles of connectors, having a nice set of ratcheting crimpers is godsend. It makes life so much easier. If you don't want to spend the extra money, you can get away with using the ones that come on most wire strippers. They're just not great. Same thing with the cutters on these. Not great, but generally good enough. We also have these. These are wire ferrules. If you are building a 3D printer, I highly recommend that you look at using wire ferrules. It will keep your wires from fraying, it'll keep them from getting damaged, and overall make the entire process of wiring your 3D printer considerably easier. You can buy them in a kit with or without the actual crimping tool, but the crimping tool does make it easy. I'm gonna very carefully flip it over so you can see. It's all based on colors, different sizes. This is pretty self-explanatory. The crimpers are ratcheting, makes life nice and easy. Highly recommend these. They are awesome for electronic projects where you don't want to deal with the errant stray wire potentially causing an entire meltdown. Moving on from the crimpers, let's get into a chemical bonding agent. Solder or solder or however you want to say it. I will say this once, and maybe I'll say it a second time if I forget it. Don't buy cheap solder. Get the good stuff. This is Kester, okay? This is a name brand. This is a pound of their 0.8 millimeter solder. This is rosin core, and this is leaded. Yes, he said lead, a heavy metal that is poisonous to humans. Don't eat it. If I have to explain to you not to eat leaded solder, we've got many other problems that we need to discuss. So don't eat it. This stuff is awesome though. Lead really helps that solder flow into the joint that you're working on. It is my preference. Now, understand, in most consumer electronics, leaded solder is a thing of the past, and they use lead-free solder. It is great to also have lead-free solder on hand. However, you will generally want a separate soldering iron tip or a separate soldering iron if you're of that persuasion for your leaded and unleaded solder, okay? Just like you shouldn't put leaded gas into a car that takes unleaded and vice versa, don't mix the metals. Leaded solder does not stick well to unleaded. They really only stick well to each other. And if you do a lot of jewelry, you might want to look at silver solder or solder that bears some other precious metals. This stuff is great. I think it's like $25 or $30 a pound, which is not cheap, but a pound of solder lasts you a long time. I've had this one for a few years now. If you are in the Orlando area though, Orlando, Florida, go over to Skycraft, go say what's up over there and go get some solder from them. It will be cheaper than you can buy it on Amazon. And honestly, if you don't know Skycraft, go get yourself learned on some Skycraft. It's basically the pilgrimage place of all geeks, as far as I'm concerned. That and Micro Center. We don't have one of those in Florida, though. Closest one's in Atlanta. I've definitely not made that trip just for computer parts before. Anyways, moving on. We have these awesome solder and seal wire connectors. Now, I did a recent video where we attempted to fix a television. It was running just fine until the middle of this video where it actually died. So I can't actually see what's being recorded anymore, which is hilarious to me, but that's okay. We used these solder and shrink connectors, and what these are, take one out. They have inside of them, this is a clear heat shrink with 2 beads of glue, and then in the middle is a very low temperature solder. And so you can use either a heat gun or a little micro torch to shrink both ends when your wire is in it. That way the wires don't come back out. Then you heat the middle to get the solder nice and hot so it flows across your wires and produces what is effectively a semi-permanent bond. This is not as strong as regular solder. I don't know the type of solder they use, and quite frankly, I do not care. This is used for very quick applications where you need to stick 2 wires together. You don't want to use like a wire nut, and you're not concerned about the amount of energy that is going to go through it. We did it for 5-volt fans that are powered off of USB, and I think they're drawing a max of 1 amp. 5 watts through one of these is no big deal, but do not use these in normal electrical applications. They are not good for that, so please be careful. Another great thing, if you can get it for your printer, are spare build plates. Now I have a original Prusa textured bed sheet, and I also have a generic one that you can buy right from Amazon for about $10 less. Now this is a smooth sheet, this is a textured sheet. All my smooth sheets are being used right now, so oh well. I think you guys kind of get the idea. The thing about the cheap textured sheets are, the other side is bare metal, okay? It's also covered in fingerprints. Should have probably cleaned that before the video, but I didn't. The other side is bare freaking metal, and if you want to try out different bed coatings, this is great. But PEI is probably my favorite. This is a textured powder-coated PEI plate. This has a piece of PEI stuck to it, only on one side. So be careful when you order these cheap build plates. Just know you kind of get what you pay for. Now they're both spring steel, which means you can bend them. You can bend the sin out of them, and they will just spring back into place. Alternatively, they also make fun noises. I don't know if that's gonna get picked up on the microphone, but they make fun noises. So keep them away from small children because they can also cut people. The edges are not sharp, but they're also not dull, if that makes sense. It's a very thin piece of metal. It can cut you. Just be careful when you're using them. Let's move into kind of your basic everyday toolkit. Now, a lot of you know the company iFixit. They make awesome toolkits, but they are a little expensive, and go figure, we've seen Chinese clones hit the market very easily. So this is a great little toolkit that we highly recommend. It comes with a screwdriver kit, multiple bits for basically everything that you would need. It comes with an ESD strap, whether it's for your wrist or for your ankle. Great for grounding yourself out when you are doing electronics work. Also comes with a pick for phone screens, unrelated to 3D printers. Over here, we've got some tweezers, some pry bars, and just some other basic tools that are not really used all that often in 3D printing, but great to have. Over here, it looks like we've got a small ruler, a pry bar, which may or may not have come with this kit. We've got one of the awesome, these things are awesome, these slide knives. I love slide knives. And these are just snap knives. They slide out. If the end is dull, you can just break it off, throw that little piece away, and then right under it is a ready-to-go fresh blade. Those are beautiful. And some little spudger pry bar tools. These do not cost a lot of money. I highly recommend having a few of them. I actually could not find my personal one, so I stole my brother's for the use of this video. Thanks, John. But yes, I don't know this brand name, so whatever. Links will be in the description. Paper towels, not just because it is over 87 degrees in your garage in Florida and you are sweating profusely. Thankfully, that's what editors are for, to cut out those times where I'm wiping the sweat off my face. But it is also great for cleaning your print beds. Now, some people say to use alcohol. And no, this is not the stuff you should drink. This is 91% isopropyl alcohol. It's also great for cleaning resin prints, but is a little expensive. Personally, I like using Windex or the generic version of Windex, the blue stuff. Generally, I think this is with ammonia. Yes, with ammonia. It is great for cleaning print beds, especially new print beds. Always use alcohol or Dawn dish soap. That will get all the grease off of it, and then you can go ahead and start cleaning it with your glass cleaner. This stuff is good. Be wary of the lower proof alcohols. Okay, the 91 is really about the lowest quality that you want to go with. If you can get higher, because generally what's not alcohol is ethanol or water, and ethanol can be damaging to build plates, so be careful. Paper towels are great, especially the little Selecta-size ones. We do like those here. I also recently saw that there are now ones that have not just the half sheets, but quarter sheets, so that was kind of cool. Speaking of quarter sheets, something that I use way too much, and I am an absolute turbo geek about sandpaper. Now, I was going to pull out the thing of sandpaper that I wanted to show, but I figure I would just put my entire thing of sandpaper on the table so you guys can see it. This is actually a manila folder holder, so it holds folders. I have most of my sandpaper already sorted. Using these emery boards you can get from the dollar store are awesome as well. 2000 grit, and what I was looking for specifically are these. These kits, I don't want you to fall back. Awesome. These kits of sandpaper, they're half sheets of sandpaper, and you can get them on Amazon. You can get them as low as like 60 or 40 grit, and as high, I think this is one of my big kits, as high as 10,000 grit. This goes from 120 to 2,000. I've got 10,000 grit sandpaper somewhere. Honestly, at that point, you're just wasting your time. But these little sandpaper things are great. In here, I have full sheets all sorted out. There's 400, there's 320. And so it gives you lots of availability to sort your sandpaper. I know this is like one of the things I'm a geek about when it comes to sandpaper, but good sandpaper is hard to find. And that's why I buy a lot of the cheap stuff. Highly, highly recommended that you guys get an assortment of sandpaper because, well, you're gonna need it to clean your prints. And especially on print beds that just don't stick, something like 2000 grit sandpaper with a little bit of water can give you a little bit of bite extra in your build plate so your prints can stick to it. Speaking of sticking to build plates, everybody knows the purple dissolvable PVA glue sticks. These are great to go on glass beds. Now, some people will say that it's there to help your prints stick. I disagree. It's there to help your prints release. Now, ultimately, yes, it also helps your prints stick. But materials like PETG have a tendency to weld themselves to glass and can take chunks of that glass with it when it comes off your build plate. And glue stick is a great way to solve that. Now, you can use the purple stuff, you can use the clear stuff. It does not matter. Any PVA, so polyvinyl alcohol based glue stick will work. Alternatively, you can get some of the White Elmer school glue, put it into some water, mix it up, and paint on a slurry. It's up to you. Play around. We got through our toolkits, but one of the things that we didn't talk too much about was measurements. Now, the engineers in the crowd are going to groan at me because I don't use Mitutoyos. I use just some generic cheap calipers. We're actually going to give away this caliper. So if you guys made it this far into this video, leave a comment down below and let us know why Victoria is the best. And as long as the words Victoria is the best is in your comment, you will be entered to win this set of digital calipers. Although probably not this one. I'll probably just buy it on Amazon and ship it to you directly. But we will be giving away one of these in this video. So please make sure that you get subscribed, like the video, and leave a comment to potentially win these digital calipers. Now, these are 6-inch. These are brand new. If you're local, I'll even hand deliver them to you. But these, they're not amazing. Okay, let's be real here. They are not Mitutoyos. And if you don't know what Mitutoyo is, they make metrology grade measuring tools, okay? And digital calipers are one of them. The difference between Mitutoyos and a set like this is well over $100, but also a calibration and certification sheet. For what we do, and for what most people use their 3D printers for, you do not need that level of precision. And if we did, we would just use the ferro arm that we have access to, because that's higher precision than a pair of dial calipers. But these are still great to have. They will generally come with at least 1, if not 2 spare batteries, a cover, and a nice little carrying case. But for a few dollars more, you can double your size. And I don't know about you, but that seems like a good deal to me. We have a set of 12-inch calipers, which are awesome too. They have much longer jaws, so you can look at the jaws and everything. One thing to note about these cheaper calipers, something that you don't have an issue with on Mitutoyos and higher end ones, is that they draw a lot of power from their batteries even when they're off. So when they are not in use, make sure to remove the batteries or just buy a bunch of spare batteries. I mean, the batteries aren't that cheap. I'm not a huge fan of just throwing things away because you're too lazy to just take a dang battery out. But I do prefer the ones that do fractions. So you can see that's 21 millimeters, 0.831 inches, or 53/64. That's really awesome to have, right? So if you're trying to get that exact size, you can easily do it. And, you know, again, nice big size calipers can make measuring things, of course, over 6 inches really, really easy. Now, I believe you can get them well over 2 feet, but understand they get a little unruly after a foot long. So yes, even this one comes with a spare battery as well. So when you're not using them, keep them closed. This one got damaged in shipping. The little foot peg there broke off, and just don't care to fix it. But we'll link to all this stuff in the description down below. So anyways, let me know down in the comments, what is your favorite tool that we covered here? Did you see any tools that you don't have that you're now gonna go run out and buy? And tweet at me. Let me know if we missed something, because I bet we might have missed some pretty simple stuff. It happens from time to time. Our Twitter is at 3D_Musketeers. We'll put it right here. Also, leave a comment, because I will probably see that a little bit faster. Twitter allows you to send messages and pictures and all the fun stuff, so love to hear from you guys. It's always fun to talk with the community members. But stay safe out there. Don't forget to call your loved ones. As always, keep making awesome. Have a good one. But be careful, because you don't want to keep your torches too close to your alcohol. God, what a terrible joke. I should redo that. Hey, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this look at some of the basic tools that we use every day, make sure you get subscribed, and you might enjoy the video all about hot ends linked right below me. Off to the side somewhere, we've also got a playlist all about 3D printing if you want to learn a little bit more about that. Don't forget, Patreon is coming soon, so your name could be scrolling next to me. Don't know which way that's going to be yet, but it could be. I'll see you guys down in the comments. Take care.